Okay, we're into our final networking session. So the floor is open, and thank you so much for introducing yourself. And the floor is open now for comments, questions. Lloyd, you may have to go, but I'll be here until you get ready. Everyone gets ready to go home.
Yep. So I actually do need to get going. My wife gets off work early today. So thank you all for coming in for this one. This was a fantastic session today. Again, we are building our network, and we are building across the Atlantic through our crossroads is now coming into fruition. That first tree that was planted way back in 2020 in St. Jamestown and in Bermuda and in the Democratic Republic of Congo, we are now connecting those lines. Thank you, Andrew, and thank you for everybody in the network.
Yes, thank you.
We love you, Lloyd.
Thank you so much.
Okay, family, we can wrap it up, or we can keep going. Ball's in your court. We can make the decision now.
I still have a bit of energy.
I do have something to say. And
however, Stephanie, Thomas Hobson had his hand raised. So first Thomas and then you. Hey, Tom, ball's in your court.
Thank you. This has been very enlightening, and our hearts have been kind of how to help the Native American people, and partly because we have, my wife and I are Mi'kmaq background, and we see kind of both sides because we have the heritage of both the English and Scottish, etc. We used to have a bakery on Manitoulin Island where we used to supply bread to the native people door to door, and that was a fun time at the time there. But what I'm bringing to the table today is the power for the change, I believe, is in the people. The problem has been with the handout, looking, like being like this, instead of realizing that the power is within you to make the change. You have all the Native people have something wonderful to contribute to society and to themselves. They just have to discover it and bring it forth. It's kind of like you give and you receive, you bless and you're blessed, you forgive and you're forgiven. And these are the things that, if we're nurtured, they will bring forth fruit. And the idea is really overcoming slavery. And it begins in the heart and mind, realizing that you are free already. So you recognize within yourself that, in a sense, you've been lied to, discouraged from being really who you are. And you have to search deep to know that, and that's the spiritual walk as well. Presently or lately, I've been working with a group of people who have technologies to help clean up the environment, basically take garbage dumps and make them into reproductive materials, and provide solar power, wind power, various power systems. And all of these things can change people's lives so that they can make the decisions on where they want to go and what they want to do and what they want to be. And I kind of skipped ahead a little bit, but the real value in a person is the person. And if, for instance, you can have all the land in the world, you can have all the gold in the world, you can have all the resources in the world, but if you don't have any people, what value do they have? So I just like to bring that forth, that's important for the Native community to realize that they are needed in this world.
Well, please do what we call a Hollywood do-over. and introduce yourself and where you're from at the beginning. And if you have an organization, the organization, and if it has a website, etc., and make sure it's in the chat. One more time.
Okay. Yeah, my name's Thomas Hobson, and I live in Medicine Hat, Alberta. And well, I'm 75 years of age, and we're working. I was introduced to this particular link here from Brown Bear Child, whom I've had contacts with for a while. Working on other things for planning for greenhouse type operations, planning for homegrown operations where people can actually simply grow their own vegetables right in their own house. And I think that's, my wife has been doing this, and this is what can build personal responsibility and personal awareness of their abilities, where people get a sense of contact if they don't have land. Like, you know, you can say, oh, I don't have land. Well, a lot of the white people don't have land either. They just have a little wee spot, you know, to live on. And yet they could grow in their own house the food they need, lettuces and tomatoes and different things of that nature. So we have to start with what we have and what we can do, not what we can't do. And then when that starts to grow, I believe the funding will come. It's like life nurtures life. Energy, it's getting the energy flowing in the right direction. So if you get the energy flowing in the right direction, then everything starts to support itself. More and more will come in because people want to support life. Okay, more and more people will support it, and it'll just flow. We've gone through all the problems in this world. I think we've seen it all, and most people are fed up with the way the world has been run, and we need to change it, and it starts with us. It starts with each individual. Okay.
Understood. Well, thank you so very much. Make sure you have your contact information in the chat. Stephanie, over to you, and then Juliet. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Stephanie Schubler, and I'm based in Toronto, Canada right now. The talk was very, very.
We have echo, so I'm not sure, Stephanie, if you're there twice. But if you're not speaking, please mute yourself.
Yeah, I'm not sure why there's feedback. Okay, let's give it a try again. Okay, I'm Stephanie Schuler. I'm based in Toronto, Canada, and I am a founder of Global Unity Network, and also the Unity Learning Network, and also founder and director of the Maui Aloha Project, which is an eco-village initiative. And the basis for all my involvement is really not only climate action, not only climate action for Mother Earth, but climate action between peoples, between groups, and specifically regarding education and learning. And I'm really glad to hear that, and I know that it's been necessary to talk about the holistic well-being. Holistic well-being is the crux of everything I'm doing as I'm finishing my doctorate at the University of Toronto. It's about social emotional well-being and labeling. And I was really grateful that John spoke about, unfortunately, the high rates of youth suicide, depression and anxiety and all of that of course lead to suicide, and also trauma, ancestral traumas. And I come from the opinion that we've got to try Thomas, you just talked about all the systems being disrupted right now, and this is a time for sure of transformation. with COVID happening right now, we saw that the school systems, the learning systems instantly changed. So we have an opportunity also with the digital age and plus I believe in balance, but we must do anything. I speak from an education background. I speak from a holistic learning background and well-being background. We must do anything that we can to try to reduce the numbers of anxiety, depression, and youth suicide, and it goes on into adult suicide as well, whatever needs to be done. And, you know, we see the answers right now. I know Maui Aloha Project, and I know our learning network, we're putting it all together, all of the indigenous wisdoms, all of the new sustainable and regenerative energies that can sustain us. And also so many of the social, cultural, art, sports, we've been discussing it. These are some of the ways that through play, through learning, we're going to bridge these intolerances and these hatreds. One of you said at the beginning, you know, that we're looking backwards to all of our histories, which have so much hatred, so much slavery, so much destruction, and so much division. And I think, you know, we're very fortunate at this time right now because we can look towards the future. We're in a crisis time for humanity and a crisis time for the planet. And all of us together, you know, with all of the medicines and the knowledges, I can hear the conversations in education changing. I can hear people caring more and more about social, emotional, and holistic well-being. It wasn't always part of the conversations. So hopefully we've hit rock bottom and we're going to start to move into the light together and in a unified way as one world, hopefully. So I just wanted to say that I hear the conversations changing. I hear people in education caring about the state of the children, and that's been exacerbated from COVID for sure worldwide. So that's my 2 cents from the learning and education side. Thank you.
No, thank you. All right, we have Juliet and Prophet Cox.
You know, I also agree with Stephanie there. But what's interesting is how across the world, it doesn't matter where we sit, you know, the healing process needs to happen, and it's also a matter of looking at you know, issues of collaboration, where at times we don't have to reinvent the wheel, because when you look at what John and people like Prophet Cox have been working on, it's also just a matter of saying, how do we learn from those and start using them, because healing is healing. It's like medicine. The soul needs healing. So it's not like you have to come up with a new formula. So whatever has worked elsewhere, it would be good to look at collaboration. I know that possibly Prophet Cox will look at expanding on the work that we'll be doing with her, and also to include people like John. So, but I am actually grateful that I think as a world across the continent, we're able to talk about this and do the work together, because when you know that you're not the only one that has to go through all that, it actually even makes it even better, you know. And here I'm actually talking on behalf of communities, and some of which don't even know that they need to go through healing. All we see is the issues that Stephanie is talking about: suicide, men and teenagers killing themselves. But yeah, you know, the work still has to happen, and yeah, I'm very grateful.
Over to you, Prophet Cox.
Okay, thank you so much. And I'm excited about, of course, all that John shared, as well as what everyone else has said, Juliet and Stephanie and Thomas. I guess I just put out a challenge, kind of, sort of, is that because there are a lot of open hearts these days to do some healing. I mean, I think as a whole, humankind is just tired of what's going on. But I want to remind you of Gandhi in the movie anyway. There was a man who came to Gandhi because he wanted to confess his sins and be forgiven. And he had killed the father of a young man and left the young man's son without a father because he was very angry and things had happened. So he went to Gandhi for forgiveness. And so Gandhi said the way that your way out of hell or your way of forgiveness is to raise one was a Hindu, the other was a Muslim. He said, raise the son of the man, that's your way out. But it wasn't to raise him under his tradition. He had to raise him under the opposite tradition. So say he was a Muslim that killed a Hindu, he had to raise the child as a Hindu. If he was a Hindu as a Muslim, so he couldn't take the child and raise him in his tradition, even though he thought his tradition was best. So I'm saying that to say what John said that happened with the Native Americans happened with African people in America. I believe it happened around the world, is that all the people of African descent, indigenous people were raised, were relegated to the state of infancy with no name, no food, no culture, no nothing, and then indoctrinated with the culture of others. So I'm saying if we're going to heal, and I'm saying this because that's what we do in the healing circles that we do now. I did 3 or 4 last week. It's that we don't go to bash people, the colonizer. We go to become again, finding our own human agency and our own traditions. That means that we can look at a God that doesn't look like our oppressor. We can speak words from our own, even if it's one word, even if it's just sawubona, whatever the word is, we start saying words that are true to our language. We start changing our names back. We start taking our food back. We stop eating garbage that was given to us. And so I'm saying, for those with the open hearts, be willing to allow people, space for people to actually go back. It's called Sankofa, as from Ghana, a Dinka symbol. It means go back and fetch it if you have forgotten. So it was the system of racism and oppression was a complete system. And it was designed, if you were the creator of it, which none of us were, but if you were, you wanted it to work. So if you wanted to work, you had to take everything, strip everything down. So I agree with Thomas in that what we need is within us, but the help that people are needing is to be able to know, because we were taught we have no value. So the people with the value were the ones who gave us new food that didn't work in our digestive systems. They gave us new names that were not part of our ancestors. They gave us names of their ancestors. So we need to go back and get that which gave us strength, that which allowed us to build pyramids. They said that the Sphinx, they dated it going back about 70,000 years because there are watermarks on it. So at one point there was water in the desert. So we know that we have some greatness, but how do we get it back? We don't get it back by clinging on to the history of those who oppressed us. So it's not a bashing of anybody else. It's just, we're calling it to remember. We remember, we reconnect, not to bash other folks. And so it's like everybody get okay with it. I have done a lot of work around 12 steps. So I've gone to conferences in England and all that with the Narcotics Anonymous. But if you're alcoholic, they don't really want you to come in there talking about I'm a crack addict. They don't want you talking about I'm a heroin addict. They want you to talk about alcoholism. So a lot of our circles that we do are specific. We've done specifically safe, healthy spaces for Black people. We've also, because we have been reached out, the organization that I a part of, we were reached out to by people who were European American. Well, what about us? Okay, well, we had white only spaces. We were the facilitators because we brought knowledge they hadn't thought about. And then we encouraged them to now do some circles for yourself because you do have healing. But there are ways for us to work together, but we have to reconnect with what really was prior to, not just give things that are present now and say move on. So that's my take on it. Let's allow people space to go back and really get, what we once had, which was kingdoms that didn't have some of the things we face now. And I think that's with John as well, because when they talk about their culture, they were forced into being slave owners because they were English. If they could speak English and if they were Christian, they were considered civilized. And if they were civilized, then they could have slaves, which is kind of scary that you had to be Christian to be a slave owner. But all the other groups, they didn't have to do that. So I see Andrew, when he turns his camera on, I get a little concerned. But that's all I have to say about that, like we said. And who was the guy that said, that's all I have to say about that. Anyway, go ahead.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm going to briefly share my screen. Earlier today, we had in attendance Lady Alicia Hamilton, She was multitasking. And just to let you know, Lady Alicia Hamilton is actually our global media coordinator for all of our works. And when earlier you heard Lloyd mention that what we're doing now will actually be packaged and rebroadcast on the Revelation Network. It's Lady Alicia Hamilton who is the founder of that. Also, the Universal Citizens Media Network, and also she provided the AHIABGA-TV with a channel on her network. So we will have a place for what we're doing now to reach a wider audience than just the social media audience. But she wrote an article back in, I think it was 2015, maybe 2016. It says July 7th, 2016, called Mental Incarceration, the Silent Oppressor. And she did this in the context of the Sustainable Development Goals. They were asking for articles and submissions. And her take on this was that we, all of us worldwide, have to make the step of breaking away from the mental incarceration that we find ourselves involved with that can be more crippling than externally applied incarceration. So I say that to say that that's part of the role and effort here. I put the link in the chat for you to review it. But the most dangerous thing that, unfortunately, we still have to deal with, in my opinion here, are the mindset of the, quote, oppressors, the ones who are facing what they call white fragility, but whose hand is on the nuclear button. And so it's critically important that as we work to heal ourselves, that, as you say, Prophet Cox, we must provide a healing space for those outside of our normal circles to be able to expand the healing process to go further. 2 years ago, there was a study that said in the United States, 75% of the Anglo-Americans had no contact with people of African descent or Latino descent. And so it's difficult for them to even comprehend what it is to be part of our community. I don't know what the solution is to that, but we have to identify those people that were, particularly the millennials, that are having the major change on the world right now that opens up pathways for the future. So again, I encourage each of you to think about some young person or some person younger than we are to be amongst our collaboration so we can have intergenerational conversations. Because again, our children will. As we are here, look at this that we have right here, right? And so this is what we have to show our children and then involve them in so the healing process can begin from within. So I just wanted to express that and thank all of you for your participation and turn the floor back over before we close because I'm getting incoming calls. So the floor is open for closing thoughts.
Just that we are doing the trainings that I do around healing. I'm now doing train the trainer. We train adults, yes, but then those adults also are working with young people so that they can also be trained and go and work with other young people. So there are some of that work is going on.
Yeah, also on our part, in everything that I do, I involve young people and children, especially children, because from as early age as possible, and young people. And I like what Thomas also said, that it's always important to remember that people, we all have the power to make the change, to heal, you know, and that's one of the things that I try and do on my project. That's why I like the whole weight of empowerment, because it's self-empowerment in order to help others. And that's what Ubuntu is, where you empower yourself in order to empower others. So yeah, we'll keep doing the work. And yeah, culturally and contextually, it makes sense. And yeah, and I agree with you. We need to get more and more young people involved on this cause. The only limitation in here in our country, Prince Andrew, is the whole issue of Wi-Fi and data. So at times they log in, data and Wi-Fi is quite expensive. So that's the only challenge for now. Thank you again. Thank you for the session and the networking part.
It would probably be good to get us something where a young person is trained and then they lead one of these, you know, give them the tools they need to lead one of these sessions, you know, one of these, I don't know what you call these, network, something.
They're called nodes. Yes.
Yes, they use note and then give them the tools though, because I see a lot of cry for the youth to lead, but I also know just because I have grandchildren and children that they need to be guided. That's how we pass it on generation to generation. They don't kind of come here knowing, they tend to be a product of us. And so if we're a banana, they're a banana. And so we have to help them to be able to deal with some things and have the knowledge to go forth. They do need us, but they have their own creativity and energy, thank God.
Okay, we're moving to close. Any last thoughts? Make sure you have your contact information in the chat so we can follow up with you. When I'm able, I send out a chat to those people that are either on their phones, but if I have your contact information in the chat, I'll send it out to you as well. All right, all quiet.
All right, okay, all good.
Heinrich, you've been very quiet all this time. Ayodele, you've been quiet. Any closing thoughts?
Oh, I think that, you know, listen and learn. That is the topic for tonight. I think I've learned a lot, and I've got a lot to reflect on, and I'm already reflecting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
So-
Will, before you go, Juliet, people that haven't spoken, Awu, you're there? Awu Ifafunki, if you're there and would like to unmute yourself, now's that time. And if not, Ayodele. Okay. All right, Juliet, balls in your
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank
that's
you.
Ayodele.
Wait. Well, come on
Yes.
with it. Speak up. Let's go.
Yeah. Yeah. Good evening from Uganda. We are learning from mentors and different partners, and most of the things that we have been listening to is there things that are really exposing or opening our eyes to some of the things which are happening many years back. I wish, especially that puts many people, wish a lot of people are ignorant of them. But we welcome every presentation, every idea that can bring more liberations to the people of Black race, because the people of Black race, we have suffered a lot of setback because of slave trade and colonization. So we will appreciate, especially more of our exposure, more of revelations, and more of liberations. And I want to tell you that currently hope of the of agriculture, in time of mining, in time of a lot of even including human resources. So thank you. We believe that the next Indigenous Summit, we're going to encourage more of our members, especially the UnityNet African diaspora. Some of them are not on board. We're going to see how we can motivate them and mobilize them to attend the next IGU Summit. I want to appreciate you, Prince Andrew Jr., for the great job you are doing. Please keep it up, and African is proud of you, and we are proud of what you are doing, and we are fully in support of what you are doing. And thank you, Mr. Lloyd. I want to tell you that I don't know what to say, especially to appreciate you, but we are really in good relationship and in support of what you are doing, especially for supporting Africa and also for connecting us to the remaining part of the world. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bishop. Okay, Awu, your last chance. Awu, I see you there, but can you unmute yourself, and would you like to? If not, we're going to go out with a prayer from Prophet Cox.
Oshunye.
Oh,
Yes, Juliet.
yes, no, I just wanted to, before we pray, just to concur with my fellow South African, Hendrik, and just say that, you know, a session like today it's actually giving us an opportunity to reflect. I mean, we are from different parts of the world as South Africans, but I think equally it's impacted both of us, and I think has given both, yeah, as he says, himself and myself, I'm sure, and other people an opportunity to reflect. And it's always good to go back inside and reflect. And thank you again. I'm echoing what Ayodele said. Yeah, and also I appreciate Ayodele for always being here and representing the Africa UnityNet and diaspora for his commitment.
Well, thank you so much. In the chat, I did put in links to my own heritage. I have my great grandmother was a Creek Indian, and also I'm from Georgia, so there's Gullah Geechee in me as well from Sierra Leone. So I am in fact a global citizen, but today is a true reflection of the Indigenous Global Unity Network, because as John mentioned, there are 500 recognized tribes, but there are 3,000 unrecognized tribes. But in Africa, there are at least 3,000 tribes, and at least that number in Asia. So technically, we're intending to provide a platform for all of us to come together to move forward in Ubuntu, because I am only who I am because of who you are to yourself and we are to each other. So on that note,
Amen.
I'm going to wrap it up for today. Thank everyone for being here, and we'll love you. Hopefully we'll see you next week, or if not,
Before there's a prayer.
we'll see you again. Bye-bye.